Hey folks, welcome to the Cardboard Cave. We're here to do a little dive into the Marvel United Coming of Galactus expansion from the most recent Marvel United Kickstarter campaign, the Marvel United Multiverse campaign. This is the expansion I think most people were most excited for. There's obviously an insane amount of content. I did a very rough, during a power outage, a very rough unboxing video of just all the content in that campaign. But this particular expansion is the one thing that I'm 100% sure that I'm keeping. I have so much Marvel United content. It is a fun game. As I've said, whenever I mention it, I love the plug and play nature of it, that no matter how much content you add, it never gets particularly complicated. It never gets particularly hard to set up. It's just a very plug and play system. I think that's what's brilliant about it. It's just a fun system, even if you're not a huge Marvel fan. I wouldn't describe myself as a huge Marvel fan. What's the saying? A Johnny come lately. I played some video games growing up. And then, of course, when the huge cinematic universe came out, I was there for it for the most part. Because they were mostly fun movies. But I'm not a diehard fan, but I appreciate the system a lot. And the characters are ones you mostly know, so that just adds to the fun. But this is not going to be a rules teach. This is not going to be an overview of the whole Marvel United system. In fact, I'm very ashamed to say it has been way too long since I've even played the game, so I'm a little bit rough. As easy as it is to play, I'm a little rough on even some of the rules. But I kind of wanted to give you an idea of what comes with this expansion. Now, this expansion, I believe they stated it was a Kickstarter exclusive. But if you're a fan of Marvel United and you're not someone who has to have everything, I imagine you might be on the market for this, even if it's not available at full retail, if you can find a reasonable price. So I just wanted to give a quick overview. And if you've never even heard about Marvel United, this will give you sort of an idea of how it works, although this is specifically going to be the Coming of Galactus version. So, you know, some of the things are the same. You pick your heroes. I've picked, I just grabbed 3 heroes out of my big box of heroes here. I've got Iceman from the X-Men, one of the X-Men expansions, Professor X, and Gambit. Because the beauty of Marvel United is you can really use any heroes you want to. So I'm pretending this is either a 3-player game or I'm playing 3-handed solo, which is something you can do. So yeah. Let's see. So our 3 heroes, it says in this version, you start them in whatever continent you live in. So this is North America. You got a spread of continents: Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, North America, Oceania. All spread out here. And, you know, in the normal Marvel United, your locations are a lot smaller. That might be just a building or a street or something. But because it's Galactus, you know, he thinks in a global sense. Because he's planning to consume Earth. And your goal in this expansion, you know, in any Marvel game, your goal is to defeat the villain. But in this one, and this is maybe not completely unique. I've honestly not played every villain, not even close, and all the expansions and everything from Marvel United. But in most of them, the way you do it is you have to complete at least 2 missions, which, you know, it depends on the expansion. But in the basic game, it's basically save civilians, beat up thugs, things like that. And then you're eligible to beat up the villain, basically. But Galactus here, you can't hit him. There's nothing you could do to hurt him. Instead, you have to complete all of the Galactus missions from this deck. Stop Galactus. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the last one, you always make this the last one, is convince him not to destroy Earth. Convince Galactus to spare Earth. That is always the last mission, which is really cool. And everything else is random on top. 8 of those missions, that's the only way to defeat Galactus. Some other differences if you play Marvel United. So that's the only way to win. But Galactus, he doesn't move to locations. I mean, just for practical reasons, for one thing. But he still moves. So if something says move 2 spaces, he goes 1. Clockwise would be 1, 2. And there's a little arrow here. You might not be able to see it, but it is printed on there. It's the way he's facing. That's considered his location. So he starts out facing the heroes. Another difference is he has 4 henchmen on the board here. Technically, it's not strictly necessary, I guess, to have them actually on the board, but you might as well. So they start in those locations, or not necessarily those locations. Wherever you randomly put out their threat cards, that's where they start. For example, this is Airwalker, so he's going to start right here. Then you got 2 locations that don't have his henchmen. And I will mention straight up, there are a lot of components this comes with I don't have out here, because you can play a totally separate mode called the Herald mode, where you fight all 4 of the heralds, these 4 heralds, without Galactus, just as their own mode. And there's a whole separate hexagonal board for that. Then you can also fight them individually as just regular villains as you would in the normal game. So there's really 3 main ways to play here. And there's a team mode as well. But for the most part, there's 3 main ways to play. The Coming of Galactus, which is what we're doing here. The Herald mode, which has its own deck and own mission board. Or just fight them individually. You know, pick your villain and fight them, just like in the regular game. So there's a lot of variety here in this one expansion. There really is. But some of the differences. Okay, so instead of moving to locations, he just turns. But effectively, it's the same as far as that goes. But whenever you see a BAM, you know, they got their master plan deck. And as far as I can tell, the main way to lose, well, if they go through their master plan deck, you lose. That's how Marvel United works. But that really seems to be what he pushes for. You know, you can also lose if a character needs to draw a card and has none left over to draw. Like, totally dies, in other words. What's the other way to lose Marvel United? I feel like there's another way. Anyways, like I said, it's been a while. But he goes through his master plans, and whenever a BAM shows up, which you know is always bad, like for example, here's a BAM on his master plan card. First of all, you wipe out all the civilians and all the thugs, so all the normal people just get wiped out at that location. You know, if you want to make it family friendly, he's just knocking them out. But the reality is he's just killing all the people who aren't superheroes in the location he's facing when a BAM comes out. And it tells you all of this right here, of course, which is one of the great things about Marvel United. Anything special about a particular villain, for the most part, is going to be printed right here. So he wipes out all the people, the thugs and the civilians. And of course, if I'd set this up completely to play, I should put out some civilian and thugs here on the printed spots. I need to give health to the henchmen here. But I'm not doing all that because this is not a rules teach. I'm just showing you some differences. So after that, if there's a BAM, each hero there has to discard 1 action token if you have any. And you know, action tokens are really helpful things to have, so that's bad. And then every hero there gets hit once. So basically, he's just wiping out all life on that spot. Every hero gets hit once. All the thugs and civilians are wiped out. So yeah, that's what happens with the BAM. So his general special rules are printed here. So he never becomes under pressure. You know, every 3 hero cards that are played, every 3 hero turns, no matter how many players you're playing with, every 3 hero turns, you have to play a master plan card. That's how Marvel United works. In the normal game, though, once you complete the first mission, I believe it is, then it's every 2 hero cards. You have to play one of these. Well, he never goes under pressure, so I guess that's actually a good thing for the heroes. But heroes cannot damage him. When he moves, you rotate him. I've already said that. When a hero is KO'd, so here's the thing. Normally, when a hero is KO'd, you discard your hand, and you do the BAM effect, whatever the BAM effect is. Then at the start of your next turn, you stand back up and draw up to 3 or 4 cards. I think it's 4. But he doesn't work that way. Whenever a hero is KO'd, and if you don't remember, a KO is simply, whenever a hero takes a damage, you just discard a card from your hand. to your discard pile. No, sorry, to the bottom of your deck. There really is no discard pile. When you totally run out of cards, you die, and that's one way to lose the game. But when you're just knocked out, you just put it to the bottom of your deck, if I remember correctly. So it gives you less options on your next turn, but it doesn't, kill you. But with Galactus, when Hero is KO'd, so ran out of cards, he doesn't activate BAM. Instead, he draws another Master Plan card just face down and adds it to the storyline. And the way we like to do it, and I think the original game showed you this, all the hero cards that are played and all the villains cards that are played, we make a circle around the board. It just seems thematic to make a storyline, and it makes it easy to see. Because if you've never played Marvel United, the cool thing about it, whenever you play a card, you get to do these actions. For example, that's a move and a fight. And the card before that one, which would be another hero's card, you also get to do theirs. So in this example, pretend this was Gambit's card. I'll get to do my actions plus the previous player's actions, which gives a real feeling of cooperation. Because if the Gambit players tell me they really need to move, they need a movement action, then maybe I'll look at my hand and say, okay, well, I'll play this one then, to give them at least one movement. Because then on their next turn, when they play their card, if they were next, they would get to use my abilities, my actions as well. But anyways, when a hero's KO, Galactus doesn't do BAM. Instead, he adds another Master Plan to the storyline. Which just gets you closer to losing, because there's 24 of these, and once you run out, that's game over. He's completed his Master Plan. So basically, he's just hastening to the doom of the Earth. He's just running this deck out as quick as he can. Because also, if there are more civilians or thugs that need to be added to a spot, to a location, than you have room for, you draw a Master Plan card and add it to the storyline face down. So it's the same thing. You add another Master Plan face down. So he's going through this as quickly as possible. The more people he wipes out, the quicker he goes through his Master Plan. And the heroic goal, the only way to win this scenario, it's not like usual where you have to complete a couple missions, then beat up the villain. In this Coming of Galactus mode, the only way to win is if heroes complete all the missions, and like I said before, stop Galactus by convincing him not to destroy Earth, which is a bunch of heroic actions on this last move. And again, if you've never played before, basically every one of these symbols is a movement, and you can move clockwise to different locations and get things done. Each one of these is a heroic action. Some locations will require heroic actions. Some threats. For example, this Stop Galactus is all heroic actions. And there's probably some more in here that require some heroic actions. It's just all kinds of different things he's going to ask you to do. So, you've really got a bunch of missions. Instead of just a couple missions, like generic ones, you got a bunch of missions that are specific to Galactus. Some just straight up require you to put symbols on there. To play your cards and use the symbols to do things. Contain rights, you just got to defeat a bunch of thugs. This one is specifically defeat Terrax, who is over here. If he's already been defeated, then put him back in play with 3 health. You got to take down Terrax. That's a specific mission. Defeat Nova. Defeat Airwalker. So, just 3 of them, I guess? No, there's Firelord. All 4 of them. So 4 of his missions, you know this going in, at least if you played it once, or if you looked at the cards. 4 of his 8 missions are to defeat the 4 henchmen out here, the 4 heralds. So to even win, you've got to defeat the 4 heralds, and you've got to do it when the mission is active. So if you've already defeated them, they're just going to come back. So that's, a little strategy there to know that going in, that, maybe defeating them isn't really worth it until the mission comes out. But of course, as long as they're not defeated, their threat is active and it's doing bad things to you. So, that's a thing as well. His other things are like defeating thugs, stealing the ultimate nullifier, which requires a ton of movement, and rescuing civilians. And then, of course, the actual final, convincing him not to destroy Earth. So yeah, ultimately going through this deck and finally convincing him not to destroy Earth is the only way to win. And you lose the normal ways, but mostly he's going to run through this deck as quickly as he can. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it is very similar to regular Marvel United, like pretty much all the expansions I've seen. It doesn't make you completely rethink the game or do things wildly differently, but it gives you some twists. And this one's cool because it also gives you the twist of playing through the Herald mode, which is totally separate. It doesn't even use Galactus. It's the Heralds of Galactus, and they have their own deck where they do special things. Or you can just straight up play each villain individually, like in a basic Marvel United game. So there's a fair bit of variety here. Also, if you do have the Silver Surfer hero, which came in the X-Men campaign, one of the boxes from the X-Men campaign, I believe it actually was a Fantastic Four box, but it was in the X-Men campaign. But if you have that, there's a whole card here you can use to basically replace one of these guys with the Silver Surfer, which is interesting. One of the 4 heralds that comes in the box you can replace with the Silver Surfer. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, anyways, I think it sounds cool. I've not played it yet. I can't review it, but I feel like there's a pretty good amount of content here. Obviously, you know, kind of the big bulk of what you're paying for is this guy. And it is totally unnecessary, but it's Galactus. I kind of feel like Marvel United is so focused on the miniatures, the toy factor. It is a fun and incredibly solid game. It really, truly is. That really comes to life once you start getting like the X-Men stuff or a few of the expansions. Like the base Marvel United box, the very first one, is I would say it's a family game. You know, it's just a family game. It's not deep. It's not heavy at all. And it is still a family game, even if you add everything. But I think when you start mixing and matching and realizing how fluid the system is, that's when it comes to life. And you realize, okay, this is actually something kind of special. But there's a big toy factor is what I'm saying. It's not just flash. There is substance, but there's a big toy factor. So I kind of feel like they had to do something kind of like this if they're going to have Galactus in the game. But it is spectacular. It's not very heavy, but it feels quality. Like, it doesn't need to be very heavy. That would be kind of ridiculous. But yeah, he is very cool looking. Like, there's no doubt about that. Very cool looking on the board, and it works well. You just turn him wherever he's pointing. That's his current location. Let's play through a quick turn. Like I said, I'm a little nervous because I've not played the game in so long. But I know the villain gets their move first, so we draw the top master plan card. It says he moves 2 clockwise, so 1, 2. Then there's a bam, and it tells us right here on the board. Again, one of the brilliant things about the game. Most of what you need to know is on the board, except for the most basic things. So first, discard all civilians and thugs here. So I would take the tokens off here. Each hero must discard. There's not a hero there. So we got pretty lucky. There's no heroes there. So we just would have had to kill off all these people. I didn't put the tokens out, but they would have been there. Okay? This gets added to the storyline. We'll just start it there. Now, let's say it's my turn. You start the game with 3 cards. I believe the first thing you do is draw a card, and there's no hand limit. So I got 4 cards now. So I got some fighting here, a movement, and a special heroic action, a punch, and that one. Let's do this one. I'm going to move and then do a heroic action. So I'm going to move Iceman to here. And this space I've landed on, it needs 3 heroic actions. As long as this threat is in play, your special effects are treated as a blank. That's rough. Some of the cards in your deck are special effects, and they're some of the best things. Any text is a special effect. So like this special effect will be useless. This one will be useless. As long as that card's in play. So, but that's a good thing to get rid of. So I played this one. So what I can do is place 1 token on here. And then I'll add this to the storyline. Then the next person would go, would go, and then the next person would go, and then the villain would get to go again. I should have got out some cards for the other heroes. But let's just pretend this was the next hero. Let's say he just wants to do this. So it goes here. So he would have, if we look over here, 1 movement, 1 heroic action, and 2 punches. Because you get to count the card before yours. The hero card before yours. So maybe, let's see. So he's got 1 move, 2 punches, and heroic action. So maybe he takes 2 punches on Airwalker here. Maybe he doesn't want to finish him off because he knows one of the Galactus missions is to kill Airwalker or defeat Airwalker. So he doesn't want to finish him off, but maybe he's going to hit him twice with those two punches. So Airwalker starts with, his health is the number of players plus 1. So I said we're playing a 3-player game, so that means he would start with 4 health. So I take 2 of his health tokens away if I put them out there. Then I still have a movement and a heroic action. Okay, well, let's say, we'll pretend it was Gambit's turn. He can move to here, but there's really nothing he could do there with heroic action. Except, no. The top Stop Galactus card is rescuing civilians. Oh, but yeah, duh. So he'd rescue a civilian and put it on here. That's what he would do. That's what he would do with his heroic action. That's how you save civilians, is the heroic action. So yeah, he would go there, save 1 civilian, put it on there, and get started on this Stop Galactus mission, which is how you win this game. And that would be his turn. Then you get 1 more hero turn, then Galactus would go again with his next master plan. Also, something I think I failed to do. No, I didn't. Actually, all the heralds have their own BAM action. So if Galactus was pointing towards their space and a BAM happened, they would also get to do their thing as well. So it's like a domino effect. But anyways, you go around until either Galactus, and of course it's a fully cooperative game unless you're playing the team mode, then it's team versus team. Until Galactus has played all his master plans, or until you defeat him by going through all these and convincing him to save Earth. So that's a general overview, and like I said, this is only one of 3 main modes included in this box, so it does seem pretty cool. Just get you a little better look at everything here. It is definitely a great looking expansion. This is all just the basic content. You know, you can pay to upgrade these locations to thicker cardboard, but honestly, these work fine. I truly do regret doing that. I replaced all of my regular ones with cardboard ones. I don't know why. I just thought that was necessary. It really isn't. I mean, unless you're just playing super rough, these are going to be fine. They're not, they're just laying there. They're fine. I don't know why I did that. So, but anyways, like I said, here's some extra content that is for the other modes. And the miniatures in this one, ignore these guys. They're not part of it. The 4 heralds here are really quite cool looking. Very cool looking heralds. The detail's really great. Like, even the bases sometimes have detail, like this one, which isn't even necessary, but it's clearly the sculptors at CMON who work incredibly hard, and I'm sure incredibly long hours for these campaigns. They have a lot of fun with their job. They really do sometimes just go above and beyond. I like the translucence of that character. And then, of course, Galactus himself is pretty spectacular. If the camera would focus, there we go. I've not painted any of my miniatures, and honestly, I'd be scared to practice on him because he's so cool, and I would hate to mess him up. But if I was going to have one miniature painted, it would be this guy. He still looks good, honestly, like that, and I love the moon base there. That adds to it. But he is one who I think would be totally worth having painted if I knew someone who would do it for a somewhat reasonable amount. But, I mean, it's a lot of time to do that, so I can't complain. When I say reasonable amount, I mean reasonable to me. Frankly, I wouldn't do it for a cheap amount because it's going to be hours worth of work. I mean, I would think it would be. I mean, he's so big. But anyways, enough of that. That's the Coming of Galactus, which is a Fantastic Four expansion for Marvel United. It's part of the most recent campaign, the Multiverse campaign, which is, of course, ended. But hopefully this will help you decide if it's worth hunting this down for you. Honestly, I mean, everybody wants something different, but I have everything from the first Marvel United. I said that really weird. I have everything from the first Marvel United campaign. I have everything from the X-Men campaign, which is just a stupid amount of content. This whole campaign added more different things to switch things up. But I've got so much already. I'm honestly, truly leaning towards just keeping this expansion. And selling off everything else. It's not that there's not some amazing, cool stuff there. I mean, like the Fin Fang Foom miniature is, I think he might be just as big as Galactus. Like, they're similarly sized, I'm pretty sure. And just so much different stuff. You got your pet companions, your equipment cards, a stupid number of new miniatures, some really cool obscure characters. You got your team mode and your campaign mode. But the game is simple as it is, and I kind of like the idea of keeping it just about as simple as it is. And I've already got so much content. I just don't know. Leave a comment below. Like, what are your thoughts? Did you back this campaign all in? Are you having second thoughts like me? Like, maybe I've got too much Marvel United at this point. Maybe just keep my favorite parts, which I think this is my favorite part from what I've seen. But yeah, just let me know in your comments or in the comments below. Or did you decide to skip out on this campaign, but you are looking to pick up this expansion just, well, for the cool factor? I mean, come on.